My name is Oswald Ndoda. With me here is Pomono. Let us greet him. Right, before we go into today's lesson, let's begin by sanitizing our hands like that, inside and outside, and then in between our fingers. We stretch out our hands to maintain the social distance, and always we should have our masks on. Right, today's lesson is going to be on diminutive nouns. Right, boys and girls. Remember, we looked at common nouns. We also looked at abstract nouns, proper nouns. Now, we want to move on with these nouns. Like I said, today's lesson will be on diminutive nouns. Diminutive, let's pronounce that word properly. Right, what are diminutive nouns? Diminutives are words that refer to something smaller or younger. This is on page 3. It's on page 3 of your booklet. Right, diminutive nouns are words that refer to something smaller or something which is younger. Remember about young ones of different animals, and then we have also small things. For instance, a river, Okavango River, a small Okavango is called a rivulet. And then a young one of a dog is a puppy. And then we also have a young one of a Kate is a kitten. Right, diminutives are made by adding a suffix, et, let, ling, ock, ette, and kin to the root word. Now, we are saying these suffixes are added to root words, e.g., a root word like eagle, if you add let, it becomes eaglet. So eaglet is the young one of an eagle. You have owl, a young one of an owl becomes an owlet. Duck, duckling, bull, bullock. Kitchen, kitchenette. Hill, hillock. Diminutives can also be a special word for something younger or smaller. E.g., tree, we call it a sapling. A small tree is called a sapling. Right, let's proceed. Below there on the same page, we have a list of diminutives to refer to. We want to use this as our dictionary as we do our activities. Each time we will be turning to page 3 and look for the answers. There are quite a number of nouns and their diminutives. For instance, there's bear, cub, goose, gooseling, and then we also have the last ones, which is goat, kid, stallion, colt, crown, coronet, etc. Let's turn to page 4. Right, on page 4, diminutive words with the suffix et and the suffix let, L-E-T. An example there for novel is novelette. Kitchen, kitchenette. Towel, towelette. Cigar, cigarette. And then on the other side, we have pig, piglet, book, booklet, leaf, leaflet. And lastly, droplet. Right, boys and girls, let us turn to page 4 of our booklet. We want to look at activities. Number 1, select the correct word from the box to complete the sentences. Now the words in the box read as cynet, eaglet, fawn, sapling, streamlet, kid, lamp, calf, erslet, duckling, cub, foal, rivulet, and gosling. Now, what you simply need to do is to choose a word that will complete the given phrases there. For example, a young duck is a duckling. A young goat is a kid. So you proceed from C up to N, writing the correct diminutive for each. And then activity 2 on the same page, it says, add the correct suffix to make the diminutive explain the meaning of each diminutive. For instance, we have hill. Do we say hillock or hillet? The answer should be hillock. That's a small hill. Then book. Do we say bookling or booklet? The answer should be booklet, meaning a small book. So you continue with the remaining activities. Now, activity 3, that is on page 5. Let's turn to page 5. Activity 3, it says, read this passage. And obviously, at the end of the passage, there are some questions to be answered. Now, let me read for you the passage first. While bending down to drink water from a rivulet one day, a fox and a cub fell in. Try as they would, they could not climb out because the walls of the rivulet were too high. All the tadpoles and fry along the bank were shocked at the arrival of the new inhabitants and swam away. Not long afterwards, a goat and her kid came along. Behind them were 2 lambs and a piglet, rushing to get the first sip of water. Seeing the fox and its cub in the water, the goat asked them why they were in the water. We are enjoying the cool, pure water, replied the fox. Would you like to jump in and taste it? Without stopping to think, the foolish goat jumped in, followed by the others. No sooner had he reached the bottom than the cunning old fox leaped onto his back and scrambled onto the bank with her cub in her mouth. Looking down at the unhappy goat, the fox laughed and said, "Next time, friend, be sure to look before you leap." Sadly, the goat, the kid, 2 lambs, and the piglet drowned. First to notice the free meal was an elver. followed by tadpoles, fry, and terrapin hatchlings. They all had a good meal. Right, boys and girls, that's how we should read. Then we turn to page 6 of the booklet, where we have the questions. You answer those questions from A to D. For instance, the first one would tell you, underline the diminutive nouns in the text. So if you go back to the passage on page 5, as you read through, you would see quite a number of diminutives in there. Then you underline. Yours is simply to underline the diminutives. And then B says, write these words in the diminutive noun column below. Use each diminutive only once. Right, so I would like you to do that exercise. And before that, okay, that's fine. Right, welcome back, boys and girls. Let's go to page 6 of our booklet. It says, activity 4 says, complete the following using diminutives. A small hill is called a hillock. A condensed book is called a booklet. Now, C to G, you can complete that on your own. Let's quickly move on to activity 5, which says, use the diminutive suffixes to form diminutive nouns. The diminutive suffix E-T-T-E, and then gives us, from the noun statue, we have statuette. So we can do the rest on our own. Let's quickly turn to page 7, activity 6. Draw a line from the diminutive to the correct definition of it. On your left hand, we have diminutives, and on your right hand, you have the definitions. So I begin with A. Definition A says, a small river, a very small river. You go to your left side. If you look at number 12, it says rivulet. A very small river is a rivulet. So you join a very small river and rivulet. That's A and 12. Also, a young goose, that's on B. A young goose becomes a gooseling. So you join number 1 and B. Now, let us do the rest on our own. But before that, let's proceed to activity 7, which reads, change the underlined words to diminutives and rewrite the sentences. The lady found the dog in a river and took it home to dry off in her kitchen. The underlined diminutive nouns there are dog, river, and kitchen. So, if we are to rewrite that, the sentence would read as follows. The lady found the puppy in a rivulet and took it home to dry off in her kitchenette. So, we can move on to B and do the rest. Now, on page 8 of our booklet, there is a crossword puzzle there. There's a crossword puzzle where we have a word being on our right bottom or bottom right. There is a list of words there which are diminutives, And then on our right, where it says across and down, those are the nouns where we should write the diminutives. For example, number 1, going downwards, it says pig. So you go to number 1, you find the diminutive of a pig, the young one of a pig. That should be a piglet. So if you write from number 1 going downwards, piglet should fit in those boxes. Across, that's number 2, we have goat. Now, the diminutive or the young one of a goat is a kid. Those are 3 letters, they should also fit across there. So you continue from number 1, 2, up to the last one, which is number 20, writing the diminutives. Right, boys and girls, thank you very much for listening. We have come a long way doing these nouns. Like I said, we did proper nouns, we did abstract nouns. Today we're looking at diminutives. Please, let's not forget them. Right, but before I go, always remember to sanitize. You squeeze your hands inside like that, outside in between the fingers, stretch out at least ensure 1 meter apart, and then you put on your mask. Thank you very much, boys and girls. We will meet in the next lesson. Bye-bye.
What is social distancing? Hi everyone, I am Zoshi, and I'm back. It literally just means that you need to stay home all the time and keep away from crowded places. And remember to keep your distance from your friends too. Everybody stay safe. Yay! Till next time. Bye!
Now in its 6th year, the Syrian conflict has impacted heavily on the most vulnerable. More than 2 million children were forced to leave their homes. After 3 weeks at Idomeni, a waterlogged camp in northern Greece, Mohammed Al-Khalil and his family of 4 are desperate to relocate.
حياة صعبة هون، خيم ومطر وبرد وحمام ما في وأمراض ونحن بكل الأحوال ندور مكان يعني آمن فلقينا المنظمة هاي الأمم المتحدة حل بالنسبة لنا، لأن احنا ندور الأمان وندور مشان أطفالنا، مشان ننسى الأيام اللي مرت علينا ونتأمل إن شاء الله خير يعني.
But for single mothers like Nisreen Chico, who is stuck at the border shared by Greece and the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, the wait has led to desperation. Her husband was killed by a bomb in Aleppo 3 years ago. These days, she's consumed with protecting her 5 children.
حاسة إنه كثير صعب أنا أولادي نعيش هون. ما فيني أتحمل ما في. يعني صار لي 10 أيام هون ولا يوم نمت برياحة. هن بيناموا أنا لا.
Nisreen is not alone. Narin worries about her 2-month-old baby, Delberin, who has contracted a lung infection. She's unsure whether he'll survive.
في معه مرض فيروس، في معه التهابات ما بعرف حرارة، في معه سهل تراجع. أخذنا على المستشفى صار 14 هون أنا. امبارح جيت على أساس ما في شيء، جيت لهون كمان نفس الشيء. أولادي كلهم هذول كلهم مرضانين.
UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, is providing shelter for the thousands of children and their families trapped here. But it's not enough.
A lot of families with young children have spent weeks, night after night, in the rain, in the cold, under the open sky. The small tents that they have had are not good. It's not proper shelter.
Keeping the children warm is a priority. The refugees burn anything in sight just to keep the cold away and avoid hypothermia. Meanwhile, back in the camp at Idomeni, Mohammed, his family and other refugees make the journey to a nearby hotel, the first stop in the relocation process. For this family, at least, the possibility of a new life is beginning. But unfortunately, for far too many others, life has become hopeless. And as long as the brutal war in Syria goes on, it's unlikely that any of these children will see their birthplace in the foreseeable future. This report was produced by Mary Ferreira for the United Nations.
COVID-19 affects people very differently. Many people show no symptoms at all, but some are hospitalized for weeks. So what does the disease do to your body? The coronavirus enters through the mouth, nose or eyes. It then usually attaches itself to cells lining the nose, throat, airways or lungs. It can turn these cells into factories that multiply and spread the virus. For the majority, a fever, cough and breathlessness are as bad as it gets. But the virus can damage the small blood vessels lining the lungs and initiate clotting. The alveoli are tiny air sacs where oxygen goes into the blood. If they become inflamed, it can trigger pneumonia. Seriously ill patients need to be given oxygen as the lungs fill with fluid and debris.
I legit couldn't breathe. My oximeter was measuring under 88% oxygen levels, which is very dangerous. And the only time I ever thought my life was in danger was at that point.
COVID-19 doesn't just affect the lungs. It can also disrupt the immune system, which is used by the body to fight illnesses. Cytokines are part of the immune system that find and signal infections. For some people with severe COVID-19, this system can go into overdrive. If too many cytokines build up, it can cause an overreaction that damages healthy cells. This is called a cytokine storm for the most severe cases. COVID-19 can lead to seizures or even a coma. It can also cause brain problems that lead to strokes. The immune system overreacting can cause clots that stop the blood supply to parts of the brain. Brain inflammation, psychosis and dementia-like symptoms can also affect seriously ill patients. The average length of the illness is 14 days, but many people have symptoms for much longer. Breathing problems and post-viral fatigue last for months in some cases.
I cannot walk for long simply because I will feel a little bit short of breath and I feel the need to sit down. And that's something that has never happened to me before.
Some of the people who are most likely to develop severe symptoms are older adults and those with underlying health conditions. It's not fully known how anyone will react to COVID-19 until they get it, so it's important for everyone to follow health guidance. What precautions are you taking to stay safe?
Catch no feelings. Mama Tongas are the MVPs. Correct. We shine bright like a diamond. Moving my specs, boys. Correct. Coach Chicken in my MVP. For 20 win a badass crew. Correct. Second to me, lady Baba. 20 years in the game, Baba. They thought we gone, but we came harder. Made some moves to make and one. Tell us down and stay in your lane. Kappa Kutini Banga repeat. Tell us down and stay in your lane. Kappa Kutini Banga repeat. Tell us down and stay in your lane. Kappa Kutini Banga repeat. Tell us down and stay in your lane. Don't clash it. Don't clash it. Don't call this a comeback. My tongue family are now on Maybachs. Maluma the cool cats. Shout out to the fuck. Don't call this a comeback. My tongue family are now on Maybachs. Maluma the cool cats. Shout out to. Just check it, a cat. R.I.P. my homie, the biggest cat. Oh, let's check it, a cat. R.I.P. my homie, the biggest cat. What's up? Don't clash it. Immortal. 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 Just so. Just a bit of cup of because Wamba. Tongo. Just so. No. Man. Come on. I did it again. Just up. Just so. Just a bit of cup of because Wamba. Matongo. Just so. Because we're in the start of Napotondesa. Matongo, you are the best. I like you.